few of you might have already seen a short I put up, just like snapshots of, you know, how this jig, well, how my diff housing over here was built, and yeah, I'm just going through how I go about making a jig to do so. So if yeah, if you're interested in that, and I hope I can make it interesting, not boring. But anyway, this is how I go about it. So, righto. First, I machine out some spindles off a diff housing. These ones are from an 80 series. So, cut the ends off the diff housing, put them in a lathe, machine back the welds, take the axle tube off so that these are fresh to go into a new axle tube, which you'll see. This is part of the build, so you'll see. I drew up and then got some laser cutting done. Cut these plates. These mount to the mounting, so the surface that the backing plates mount to. That's where I got a measurement off a diff housing before I've got a diff housing. I'll show you later. It's hanging up over there. I got the distance from mounting face to mounting face at the other side of the where the backing plates bolt on to get me measurements, and you'll see where all that comes into play. But if you take that, then these plates, well, they've been machined, yeah, so, and laser cut, just sits in there. So you're actually building the diff housing upside down, because if you had the plate cut the other way, these two holes, you'd have to have material in there which would mechanically lock. You can't get your jig out if you poke the thing through, well, then you can't lift it out. So upside down, that gives it a release, an easy release. So you just poke. I just poke my bolts in, bolt these in. So they bolt in. We'll tighten them up later when I get the rest of the strong back through it. But that's, so I don't know if you can see that clear enough, but they'll mechanically release. I'll do the other one quickly. Now I've already got this bar set for the right distance and everything, because I've had this jig tacked together. Pulled it apart just because it was done before I started YouTube, so we're just sort of reverse engineering a little bit, so I'll show you what happens. So I've got these cones made up, aluminium cones. I machine them up. They slide on the shaft. Then slide that through the spindle. That goes on there. So that cone will centralise the shaft in the spindle. Same the other end. Then place that on there. Lock these collars on. Loosen them off a bit. Now, so what I'm doing now, I'm just taking the weight off, push that cone in so that they centralise tight. Hold them there. And I use these because these are for hydraulic hoses, but I use these because when you tighten them up they expand a little bit, so it just puts a bit of clamp force pushing the cones into the centre, so centralising this a bit better. It's pretty hard to turn, so lock them in like that. I'll just, where I've already had it, So basically what I've done there by doing this, when these cones are in, that centralises on this straight chrome bar, then that puts everything how you want it. And I have use the old stick welder because I've run out of gas in the MIG. Now, so all I do is just sit that there like that. Find me welding here. So sit that there like that. Right. Put a tack on there. I'll put a tack down here. Doesn't take much to hold the jig in place. The main thing is no slag and stuff on here where your seal's got to run or where your bearings have got to go. Just scrap bits, so don't have to be anything special. I'll come around that way, excuse me, walk past the camera. That's all nice and solid, can't move. Do the same at the other end. That's warm. Right, so that's our jig made pretty much. Now everything we do gets built in between here. Right, so what you didn't see happen just then was I forgot to tighten these bolts up. Very important, tighten them up before you weld all your jig together. So I've just cut it all apart again, off camera, cleaned everything up, all the welds, and re-welded it because you need it true. And that whole idea of having this all through here is to keep everything true, so you don't wear out wheel bearings, brake axles. Yeah, it's got to be good. So yeah, now we're back to where we were. So now that I've got that all set up like that, I can disassemble the inside of the spindles and the shaft. I've got about 0.3 of a millimetre clearance, so that this spins free. That tells me we're pretty straight. So yeah, there's a 35mm shaft. It fits through a V8 Diff Housing, which is what I use to make my jig. I don't know if you can see it in the background hanging up, but if not, it'll come into a later video. Yeah, I use that to build the jig, and I'll get my measurements off. And this shaft fits through a V8 Diff Housing through the spindles, but she does not fit through 80 series. Had to take 3/4 of a millimetre. Had to take, I think it was 0.3 of a millimetre out just to get clearance. So that's what we did. We machined 0.3 out. So yeah. So now strip these bits off. For now, not needed. We'll need these later. Same deal. They go on there, and they were used to, they fit the bearing journals for the 9-inch housing, 9-inch diff centre. So they get clamped in the diff centre, slid on here, put on there, and that's how I get my faceplate. By bolting that on, I bolt my faceplate on to get the right distance when I'm manufacturing. everything around there. So that's, you'll see those come into play. These ones, same again. They go into the Diff journal and they fit this pipe. So, oh, they fit the pipe, the axle tube. Just quickly. Now. Right. So, like I say, I've already done most of this before I started doing YouTube, so this is what we got. So you'll see this on my YouTube shorts, a few snapshots of how it was built. This is a pretty neat fit. So anyway, we'll leave that on just for the purpose of this. So what I do is I have this, I've got an actual solid chrome bar again that's the same diameter as this axle tube, which I put those pucks on, clamp the centre in, and you'll see on the shorts, if you go to my shorts, one of my shorts, there's a or, you know, there'll be a link anyway. This faceplate then gets bolted to the diff centre, which gives it the correct spacing from the centre of the axle, which is what you want. Then I fabricated, you know, my drain plug, the bottom of the diff housing, out about 16mm, so that I could recess the drain plug in there without, you know, any damage. Then made up these bits coming down, just with, I use CAD, of course, cardboard aided design. You'll see some of that in the shorts. Yeah, I'm working my way out to here. Then manufactured. But I still haven't welded up the inside. The inside's got to be all cut. I mean, ground out and welded. But when the diff centre was bolted in with an old, you'll see photos, it's got an old rusty diff centre with a rusty crown wheel and that in it. I put that in, bent up a piece of wire, the shape to clear the crown wheel. And then got this bit of flat bar, put in the press, pressed it to the shape, trimmed it all up, tacked it to the, once I'd made this half of the pumpkin, tacked it to there, and then with cardboard made all my pieces come in from each, you know, come down, fish mouthed them around the tube, and that's how I done that. But the important bit is getting that centre in there and getting it central on the chrome bar, because this pipe can be crooked or have a slight bend in it, you know, from factory, but when you're using, you know, chrome bar, you're generally pretty good. So that's how that was done.